Are you ready? You think you can tell us what to do? You think you can tell us what to wear? You think that you're better? Well, you better get ready. Bow to the masters. Break it down.
I tell you what, I don't think there's anything better right now than another episode of The Bowman Show. And I can't wait for you to hear some of the exciting things I have for you on today's episode. And here we go! We left off talking about how westward expansion is now being utilized with our railroad system to try to enhance the United States to become a superior power in the world. If we can combine our resources that we have to offer in our land, especially in the West, with precious metals like silver and gold, and use the cash crops that we have designed already in the United States, and use that to our advantage with industrialization, getting those resources to these industrial cities, we'll all together become a stronger, more superior country. All right, let's get to the good stuff. We're sitting here live with the 11th President of the United States. He is known for his aggressive imperialistic expansion of the U.S. as he went to war with Mexico and claimed over one of the biggest portions of land the United States have ever seen before. He made the U.S. into a coast-to-coast nation, finally reaching out to the territories closer to the Pacific Ocean, which we see California, New Mexico, Texas, and even avoiding war with Great Britain along the northern border, claiming the territory of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and parts of Montana and Wyoming. This man is going for it all. He's rolling the dice. Ladies and gentlemen, James K. Polk.
Ooh, yeah, let me some Polk, baby.
Yeah. As always, we have to play some intro music for our guests, and he has a great sense of musical talent and taste.
Hey, thank you there, Mr. Bowman. Pleasure to be on your podcast, The Bowman Hour, Bowman Show. Happy to have some nice music to get into this. Love me some David Bowie, the Starman himself. One of the greatest rock and rollers of all time. Here to talk some history.
R.I.P., man. David Bowie's one of the best of all time, right?
He's got to be.
Oh, easily. I mean, a man of your talent, a man of your expertise and accolades, I mean, he's right up there with you, I think.
Man, you're putting me on a high pedestal.
I don't want to push it too far, but man, what he had to offer with the music, universe, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Damn. All right, Polk. Hey, I want to talk to you real quick about some things today with the kids. We're getting over some westward expansion and Manifest Destiny. What was your plan with religion and Manifest Destiny? How were you trying to prompt people to move out to the West? Like, what was your idea with that?
So, Mr. Bowman, you'll know in this time period and the time period before it and the time period after it, religion played a huge factor, and religion was a major factor for me to politically use the words manifest destiny to move from the East Coast to the West Coast. We were able to convince the people of America, whether right or wrong, that it was our duty to God to move from the East Coast to the West Coast, that America was going to be one shining nation from coast to coast. We would utilize all the resources that God presented itself to us, and we'd be able to harvest our bounty from East Coast to West Coast, Atlantic to Pacific, and everything in between.
Wow. So that sounds pretty much like you're saying, hey, God's telling us we got to go out to the West. We got to try to claim as much territory as possible. Any resources that's presented to us, we will claim that for our own. And that will take it as the United States for our own, right?
Absolutely. Silver, gold, wheat, cattle, everything in between, cheese, dairy, you name it, we're getting it.
Oh, you name it. I tell you what. So cattle, wheat, dairy, you name it, all of it for us.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that sounds pretty cool. That sounds pretty cool. So imperialism plays a huge factor in your presidency, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, okay. So you're taking over as much area, land as possible.
Yeah.
Trying to take over any type of weak nations, weak territories that maybe European countries controlled at the time for your own.
We're trying to get as much from those nations for our own one nation so that we can prosper as the United States of America.
Well, that's a whole goal, right? Benefit for
That is the
yourself.
American dream.
American dream. I love that. I love that. I love that, President Polk. So you're just saying pretty much we're going to claim this land. We're going to try to promote people that religion is telling us to move out here. That we're supposed to claim this territory for our own. And that any Native Americans that are out there, they're going to have to take the high horse out of there, right?
You do know that I was a protege of Andrew Jackson, so you know how I roll with that one.
Oh, a Jacksonian, right? A
I am a
Jacksonian.
Jacksonian. The Native Americans may be native, but we are America.
Okay. I see where you're coming from. I see where you're coming from. And then any European powers that had any type of control, especially the Spanish at the time. I know Mexico just won that civil war against them. They won the revolution against Spain at the time. So they're out there in the West. What did you think about their presence?
We're pretty much going after it. We're seeing the resources that there is in the land, the silver, the gold, the wheat, the rust belt, everything in there. We're taking it. We know the potential that this country has. We know what it can become in later generations. We see us as an empire, and we're the new America. We're coming to dominate the continent.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. So you're using the resources that's presented out in the West, and you're trying to function that industrial society that you have in the East all together at once, right?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That is some good stuff there, President Polk. All right, President Polk, I just wanted to talk to you real quick about the Texan Revolution and how this was significant for the United States. There's reports that the U.S. under your authority sent troops out to the West to try to control this area, control this land, this territory that the United States has occupied. And this was a threat to the Mexican government, just because they thought that the U.S. was kind of getting close to their territory, their boundaries. And after this revolution, this almost prompted the United States that Mexico was a weaker country, that they lost this land, that they lost this territory to a very small population that was located in Texas. I just want to see your response and hear your response from that. What do you think?
Well, we saw Texas having their own revolution and being able to seize their own sovereign land from Mexico. As we're sitting back watching that happen, we're seeing that Mexican is really not a force to be reckoned with. We're able to expand westward with Texas joining our union and push forward with our troops maintaining this land mass that we're accruing. And Mexicans not going to put up a fight because they're just not a superior military artillery like the United States of America. So if they can't even contain this sovereign Texan land, what's to say that they're going to be able to contain this American land?
Yeah, exactly. So you saw a weak point in the Mexican army that they couldn't even control the Texan territory, like where Texas is located. That they couldn't hold on to that land. That Texas actually kind of broke away from Mexican control. And you thought that this was a good idea to send troops out there. It's just like, you know what? Let's just see what's going on. Let's see if we can actually kind of possess this land for ourselves, and if we can maybe claim some more land for ourselves as the United States, as a country, right?
Exactly. Texas was kind of our guinea pig. We were able to see Texas fighting the Mexicans back and being able to reclaim their land. So if this little tiny sovereign land of Texas was able to claim their land as their own, why can't the United States of America push forward, seeing that Mexico was the only people standing in our way of our divine, prosperous land moving westward and containing the whole continent? We can push past Mexico if Texas can. that there's no reason why the United States of America can't do that themselves.
Oh, for sure, for sure. I mean, you had the willpower, you had the soldiers, you had the troops, you had the artillery, you had the weaponry. Why can't you claim this land for the United States as a whole? You just saw this as an example that the U.S. can claim more land, be a more dominant power, especially in the Western Hemisphere, at no cost at all. That there would be no opposition. Correct?
It was our time to thrive. It was our manifest destiny. God willed it. We did it.
That's what I like to hear. That's what I like to hear. All right, President Polk. So we saw the way that the Mexican-American War was a way that we could just see ourselves become a superior power in the world. How else did you see the Mexican-American War become an example that the United States become a, a dominant power in the world, becoming of trade, resources, marketability, you name it?
Well, we saw our ability to defeat the Mexicans and expand westward, reclaiming the land of Texas. We wanted to claim the land of Arizona, Nevada, California, and northern territories. We wanted to have all of that land for ourselves. And we wanted to be able to have that Atlantic to Pacific pipeline enable to us having our resources across the country, port to port, eastern to western, and have that one sovereign nation, that manifest destiny that God wanted us to have so that we could become the power in the Western Hemisphere.
Awesome, awesome. So, what I've been reading with Thomas Jefferson and what we talked about him before on a previous podcast, we wanted always to have this Northwest Passage. We always wanted to have this route between the European markets and the Asian markets. And you saw this ability with the Mexican-American War to claim the territory from, let's say, Texas all the way out into California to become this Northwest Passage for the European markets. That you could access the resources within internally in your land and also have access to the Asian markets like China, Japan, and connect those resources across the Pacific Ocean to the United States. You can use a railroad system then to connect it to the eastern part of the United States to then send it to the European markets. Almost like a middleman, right?
Mr. Bowman, you said it best. Thomas Jefferson wanted this. That was his whole goal, was to find this Northwest Passage. Well, we found it. The problem is it's not just a river. It is the entire Pacific Ocean. And on that coastline, we have thousands of different ports that have access to the Asian countries, which have access to the European countries. We're able to trade out of our west coast while at the same time being able to trade out of our Atlantic coast. So we have access to all these different nations that have all these different goods, while at the same time we're able to transport our goods from the center of our nation with our new railroad system that goes continental from East Coast to West Coast to East Coast. Everyone is getting all of their needs satisfied. So we're able to do that from both of our East Coast and West Coast ports, and we're able to have this manifest destiny that God wanted us to have. It's a recurring theme. It's what we need, and that's what the people want. That's what the people want to hear. They want to hear America is the best country, and we're doing it.
In reality, you saw it from the beginning. You saw what America could potentially have with all these coast cities, not only on the East Coast, which we already established with the 13 original colonies, but with the West Coast. How we can use these western coasts as gateways to these Asian markets, as we can accept these resources, these materials coming from these Asian markets, and ultimately how you use an industrialization to connect these territories, connect these western states, these western territories, to the eastern states, okay, with industrialization through the railroad system, okay. You're not altogether building a western territory for the U.S. for resources, but you're industrializing it. You're connecting the resources that the U.S. has to offer with the Asian markets as well, and forming it into the United States industrial markets on the East Coast. So altogether, you're creating a altogether stronger country with the United States, a superior power that the United States as a whole can reckon with the European markets. Correct?
Well, it's common knowledge. As the West Coast grows, as the West Coast becomes a power, so does the middle of our country. So does the East Coast. And as our country grows as a whole, so does Asia. So does Europe. So does South America. You see the development of the technology and the resources and the innovations that our country provides, and you see that expand to the world as a whole, that we become this global power that we have dreamed of being since our birth in the colonial times.
And you saw us in the 1830s. How can you imagine? A president in the 1830s saw this power that the United States can possess. That is incredible. Incredible. And that's why we consider James K. Polk one of the best presidents in the United States. Correct?
You're damn right.
That's what I like to hear. All right, President Polk, the last thing I want to cover with you today is just how you claim the land of Oregon, Washington, Montana, Wyoming. So these parts in the northwestern portion of the United States. So how do you claim that from Great Britain? You know, we went through a war in the late 1700s with them. I just don't see the friendship, between Great Britain and the United States. How did you agree with them that this land was ours? What did you think? What did you do?
Well, Mr. Bowman, I saw this as an opportunity because Great Britain was extending themselves in a way throughout Africa and Asia and Australia that they couldn't impose themselves in North America that much longer. So I saw this land as an opportunity for growth, that we could purchase it from Great Britain and their empire and be able to move forward without war. And because of them overextending themselves in these different regions, they would be more willing to part with it. And politically, I could use that as my motivation to move westward and expand and continue to expand in this prosperous land westward and northward, and able to have this manifest destiny thing that I promised all of the American people.
Awesome, awesome. So you just saw that Great Britain, they were preoccupied with in India, which you talked about, Australia, Africa, to a point that they almost should just forget about some of the land that they had in the Northwest Territory of the United States. That they were almost it was almost useless land, which obviously it showed for the United States what we will use that for as very prosperous, very worthy land for the U.S. to become a very superior power in the world. And it almost like you fooled them in a way, right?
Yeah, it was almost like my political campaign. We sent these British people this message that we were going to buy it from them, that we would take it off their hands. It was nothing that they really needed compared to the land of Africa and India, where they were getting tea and herbs from, in Australia, and everything globally that they needed. It was just kind of a minor backthought for the British people.
Oh.
And we were able to expand northward and westward and take this land off of their hands from what ended up being a minuscule price. And we were able to greatly benefit from that. It extended our borders and made us what we are today.
Awesome, awesome. Hey, President Polk, I really appreciate you being on the podcast today. This was an awesome interview with you, and I'm really glad I got the components of what you were trying to aim for your presidency and for your goals and your objectives, and extending and expanding the United States to become this dominant power in the Western Hemisphere, claiming this land for the U.S., using the resources that the U.S. had within its own continental boundaries, and extending it to our industrial centers and becoming the superior power in the world that we know today as the United States. And I want to thank you for what you did as president. I really do.
Mr. Bowman, I thank you for having me on here. You're an incredible history teacher, an incredible friend. I'm pleased to have known you and will continue to know you. I love sharing my story. I think the story of Manifest Destiny is one that is kind of slept on in the U.S. history books and not really recognized for what it is and overshadowed by the other stories in our U.S. history. I'm happy to be a part of our podcast and share my wealth of knowledge, and hope these kids take a lesson to what I've told them, and I hope they go out and listen to some David Bowie too.
Hey, I really appreciate that. Thanks a lot, President Polk. I really appreciate that. Hey, tell the missus I said hi.
I gladly will.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey, is there any other message that you want to offer the UDA students through these rough times right now?
I tell you what, you do what you need to, you stay busy, you stay active, spend time with your family, do what you need to do to stay in a positive atmosphere, enjoy yourselves, do your schoolwork, and get out of here safe and in a human fashion.
Awesome. Thank you, President Polk. I really appreciate that. Hey, you take care.
You too, Mr. Rowan.
All right, guys, there you have it. I mean, we just heard from the 11th President of the United States and how he extended the United States to become a dominant imperialistic country in the whole world. I mean, let's just face it. He won the Mexican-American War, which claimed us Texas, New Mexico, Nevada, California. And we finally have a United States, a country that expands from the Pacific Ocean to the Atlantic Ocean, the West Coast to the East Coast. We have this Northwest Passage now. We can use the industrialization with the railroad system to connect these resources, these materials coming from the Asian markets, to the resources that we can provide for the United States internally to the eastern portion, the eastern countries, or well, the eastern states and cities, to send it to the European countries. Altogether, we see a stronger, a more dominant country in the Western Hemisphere. And we can all thank President Polk for our advancement in the world today. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning in today. Please answer questions that are attached. See you next time.